Okay, so I'm going like completely off script with this in the sense that there's no script. I want to talk about something that's not really anime related because there's something that I recently saw that I feel like is gonna need a little bit of explaining and a little bit of speculation that's not, again, anime related, and I don't know how this is gonna go over, but it's just something that I wanted to talk about and I wanted to make a video about it, because I feel like with this particular topic, people might not know what's going on or might not have like clarity on the issue, I guess, and there are a few things that I noticed and a few things that other people have pointed out that I kind of want to go over and speculate about and talk about, and I'm just rambling at this point. And the topic that I want to talk about is The Walking Dead, the season finale that just happened. If you haven't seen it, don't watch this video because I'm going to spoil what happened. But I do want to talk about it, and I do want to kind of come to maybe a understandable, discernible conclusion for those who might be wondering what the fuck was all that about. Anyways, for those who have seen it, basically, at the end of, what are we on, season 6? At the end of season 6, Negan, or the father from Supernatural, the comedian from Watchmen, that guy, he, this leather jacket-clad guy wearing a jacket like this, that jacket right there, that one, he comes out with the bat that he calls Lucille, and he, like, lines up Rick and the others in The Walking Dead, and he's about to kill one of them. Basically, one of them's going to die, and this is something that was reflected in the comic books as well. The difference is that in the comic books, they showed very clearly who died in graphic detail and blah, 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 but with season 6, they ended on a cliffhanger. Now, Negan's kind of been built up throughout this season, at least, as kind of just being in the background of stuff and leading this group called the Saviors, and basically just another governor-type character that the Walking Dead cast has to go against in order to survive, essentially. But as we know with The Walking Dead, no one's safe. And so basically, after trying to get Maggie, who was pregnant with Glenn's child, to a doctor over on a different, like, group's area, the Hilltop, after trying to do that, they all get captured, all the people trying to do this, which include Rick, Carl, Michonne, Daryl, Abraham, Rosita, Eugene, Aaron, and maybe even a few others. Sasha. And anyways, so yeah, there's a bunch of people that are basically on their knees captured Glenn, and Negan's like, I'm gonna kill one of you, essentially. You killed a bunch of my people throughout the season, and now I'm here to enact a little bit of vengeance, plus you're gonna be working for me. So you guys are gonna be working for me, but I have to set an example by killing one of you. Okay, so anyways, with all that backstory out of the way, if you guys know anything else, or anything about The Walking Dead, I should say, then you pretty much kind of know how this works, and you kind of know why they're in this position and stuff like that. If not, then I don't know why you're watching this video. But basically, Negan has everybody lined up, and one of them's going to die. He takes his bat, and he's going to start swinging on one of them and kill him. Well, they're all surrounded at like gunpoint, so Rick can't just bite out his throat, as he seems to love to do, which I understand. But the thing is, when he goes to kill someone, he basically is going like, eeny, meeny, miny, moe, everybody, and then he grabs his bat, and he's like, you're the one that's gonna die, essentially. And he goes to start swinging it, but when he starts swinging it, we don't see who he kills unless he's killing the cameraman, because that's the point of view we get it from, is the bat's coming down and blood's going everywhere, and the cameraman's in a really bad way. And the thing I want to talk about is this cliffhanger in particular is, it's kind of garbage, because to me it takes away a lot of the tension and a lot of the surprise and the shock and the emotion that was in the comic, because there wasn't a cliffhanger like that. He was basically like, someone's gonna die, and he kills someone. And spoiler alert for the comic books, if you haven't read it, the person who dies in the comic books is Glenn. And the reason that I'm gonna go over speculation of who I think died first off, we have the people who I think 100% didn't die. These are Rick and Carl. They're way too important. That's not going to happen. Another one is Michonne, who's also incredibly important, and she has a lot of a story that still needs to go through and stuff like that from the comics. I don't think they'd kill her off. She's a huge fan favorite. That's not going to happen. Same thing with Daryl. He's already injured. Plus, he has like this whole back and forth with one of Negan's like second in commands or third in commands. One of his like general guys, this guy Dwight. He has a like kind of a rivalry thing with him that needs to get established later on, and I also feel like Daryl's probably going to move past this and become something greater, which I'll talk about in a second. But essentially, Daryl, Michonne, Rick, and Carl, in my opinion, are probably 100% safe. Which leaves us with like Sasha, Eugene, Aaron, Abraham, Glenn, and Maggie, right? So we have those characters, and there's still a couple of them that I think are pretty much safe. Eugene, for instance, in the comics, he's a very, very intelligent guy, this big guy with the mullet. He's very, very intelligent. He goes on in the comics later on, once they start establishing a community and kind of thriving and kind of trying to recreate humanity, he goes on to help them out a lot because he's like an engineer and he's very intelligent and stuff like that. So I think that killing him off right now, even though, yeah, he gave the blueprints to Rick in order to make bullets, which is like one of his big things, I still think killing him off right now is probably not what they're going to do because he's too useful in the future. But that's not to say that he's completely ruled out. I just don't think it's going to be him. That was weird. Okay, I think my camera might have shut off or something, even though it's a webcam. Anyways, the point is that I don't think it's going to be Maggie, Sasha, or Rosita, and the reason for that, particularly, is that, again, Negan's kind of sexist and weird in the comics, in the sense that he, like, hates rape and all this other stuff, but he's kind of a rapist. Anyways, point is, he, when he's swinging the bat, says, you're taking it like a champ, and that to me is kind of a very masculine thing that I feel like he'd be talking to a guy about. And also, the person getting hit, like, gets hit, goes down, blood comes down the front of the camera, and then we come back up, and Maggie just wouldn't have the strength for that. So Maggie, probably because she's sick and she's like not doing good, she's probably gonna lose the baby in what she's pregnant with Glenn. So I don't think it's Maggie, and I don't think it's Sasha or Rosita either, because of his weird sexism. So there's those guys, in my opinion, are all rolled out, which leaves us with Aaron, Abraham, Eugene, and Glenn. Eugene, again, kind of probably not going to be him. So that leaves us with Abraham, Aaron, and Glenn. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go right off the bat and say I don't think it's Glenn. And my reasoning for it not being Glenn is because that would mirror the comics too closely, and they've already tried not to do that so often. Like, Andrea is, like, dead in season 2 or 3 of The Walking Dead, but in the comics, spoiler alert, she's still alive. Like, we're like probably 2-3 seasons past where the show is visually, and Andrea's still alive, so I don't think it's her. And of course, by her I mean Glenn. I got confused with my pronouns just now. Man, whew. Anyways, point is, I don't think it's gonna be Glenn because they don't want to mirror the comics too much, and because they teased him dying like 3 times. They had that big cliffhanger where he crawled under a thing and fucking the guy on top of him was getting eaten. They've teased him way too much, and they've set it up way too much for it to be him. I think they're trying to subvert the expectation, and it's just not gonna be him. That's my personal opinion on this. So, with all of that being said, there is Abraham and Aaron left. Aaron is basically at this point in the series, he's kind of just a random guy. Like, he's cool. We met him earlier. He brought them to Alexandria, and he's a cool guy. He's a really cool guy. But he's not important enough to have any impact on the series, and they've already said that the character who dies will have an impact on the series, and blah, 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 blah. So that leaves me with Abraham. Now, there are multiple reasons I think it's going to be Abraham above everybody else, but at the same time, it's difficult to say for certain because, again, this was very cliffhangery, and they did a lot of things to try and throw you off that track. Let me start by saying why I think it's Abraham. First off, he and Sasha are getting a lot closer together, and he's basically telling her, hey, you know, it's kind of stupid and crazy that Maggie and Glenn are having a baby or whatever. Would you ever want to do that? And blah, 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 blah. And he just left Rosita. So, like, his storyline's kind of, he's almost becoming not a father, but he's becoming, like, comfortable in his life. And when that happens, you gotta go. So I feel like, Abraham becoming too comfortable is one huge part, and plus that thing where he was talking to Sasha about having a kid or whatever the hell he was talking about, knocked a thing, when he was talking about all that shit, that happened in the same episode. So for them to kind of build up this big happy moment with him and stuff like that, I feel like they're gonna have to destroy him. And then also, while Negan's going through the line, he looks over at Abraham with his bat, and Abraham's the only one who stares him dead in the eye. Like, everybody else, they're like beaten and defeated. Daryl's shot, and fucking Rick's freaking the hell out. And Andrew Lincoln. He did a great job acting that. That was like, in my opinion, the most phenomenal part of this episode. But anyways, the point is, I think that Abraham, looking at Negan, he takes that as a challenge. He takes that as, oh, this guy's not going to fall in line. This guy's not going to do what I want him to do. He's got to go. Plus, there's the whole thing where he was building up with Sasha, and then also the whole you're taking it like a champ thing. We didn't, during the point of view, when he's getting hit with the bat, we didn't see anybody's hair in front of the camera, which is, to me, kind of a point that speaks to whoever is getting hit probably doesn't have long hair. Eugene's hair is tied back, so it could be him. Glenn's hair is a little bit too long. Daryl's hair is way too long. Rick's hair is way too long. Michonne's hair is way too long. So, for it to be that point of view, it's gonna have to be somebody with short hair, and that's Abraham. He has very short hair, so for it to not be skewed in the camera, and for him to look back up after being hit, and for Negan to be like, "You're taking it like a champ," that's totally in Abraham's wheelhouse. That's his character 100%. So I do think it is Abraham because of all these different reasons. Plus his storyline's kind of at a close. I mean, in the comics, he dies, and it's like his death is now's a good time. Let's just put it that way. When it comes to the series, now's a good time for Abraham to die. Whew. The reason I don't think it's going to be Aaron is because he's too much of a side character. And like I said, that he's not going to impact it too much, blah, 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 blah. They need Eugene. Now, why wouldn't it be Glenn? Well, because like I already said, they basically don't want to go the way that the comics are going. I'm sorry. I'm real tired. Like, I just watched this episode while I was trying to edit, and it, whew, I don't know, man. It took something out of me, because honestly, this episode isn't very good. Like, the way they left it on a cliffhanger, like I said, it robs it of the emotion and things like that, and it robs the viewer of something that was very real and very tactile in the comics, a very strong, very real, very potent emotion, and for them to do that was, it was just, to me, was a scam. It was like, hey, you're gonna watch next season, and everybody was gonna watch next season anyways, so to do this and leave on this weird cliffhanger really pissed me off. But anyways, that's another fucking talk for maybe another time. I don't know if I'm gonna keep doing these videos. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to talk about a little bit, at least, about some theories that I saw on Reddit. I went on Reddit right after, and I was like, I wonder what other people think, like who they think's gonna die. For me, it was always Abraham. For me, it was like Abraham's the one. But other people had other theories, and I think some of them are, well, one or two of them are probably very strong, in my opinion. But one or two of them also kind of go towards what I was saying. So I'm going to go down here real quick, and I'm going to see who the Reddit poster was. Who was it? There's one theory in particular that I really want to talk about, because it's probably the most talked about, maybe? It was submitted by Cellocaster. Okay, I don't know if he was the original person to submit it or come up with the concept or whatever, but what he talks about, and I'll link it in the description, and I'll probably put up a picture because that's, me. What he talks about is how, through the character's point of view, that's how we discover who was killed. And when people, spoiler alert, this whole thing's spoiler alert. Anyways, Glenn, Daryl, Michonne, and Rosita were all captured and put in the back of this truck, like prior to all this, and they were taken out and lined up with Rick and everybody else when they captured Rick and everybody else. And so when they're coming out of the truck, you see a point of view shot from behind Daryl in the middle of the van, so it's obviously not Daryl, and the only person to come out of the middle of the van was Glenn. So they think because they showed a point of view shot from Glenn earlier, that now the camera being a point of view shot means that he died. And I disagree with that. I feel like that's a red herring, and also you can't really take each camera shot as some sort of proof of the director's intent, you know what I mean? I mean, that would be incredibly clever, and I don't put it past a lot of directors to maybe do something like that, but I do put it past the director of this, because Walking Dead's a cool show in a lot of ways, but I don't want to say it's a stupid show, but I definitely don't want to say it's a smart show, because I don't think that they're clever enough to pull something like that off. And also, it doesn't make sense to have Glenn have this weird plot armor throughout all of the season and build it up in the trailers and in everything else, just to have him die in the exact same way as the comics. You know what I mean? I feel like they're smart enough to subvert the expectation of that, but they're not smart enough to do that point of view thing. You know what I mean? And also, that point of view thing, in my opinion, doesn't prove anything. What you want to prove is continuity within the scene. That's what you want to prove. And so, in the continuity of the scene, Negan, as he's about to strike somebody, he says, if anybody moves, or if Rick moves or some shit like that, as he's about to beat someone's head in, cut out his son's other eye. Carl's already lost an eye. Cut out his son's other eye and feed it to his father. So that means Carl and Rick for sure are not going to die. They are not the two, or they are not the person, because he wouldn't make that threat if either of them was. So, continuity-wise, can't be either of them. Again, Daryl's already shot, Maggie's already, like, broken down and, like, suffering, because she's losing a baby, or seemingly losing a baby. She's definitely sick. So, I don't think it's gonna be either of them, plus they're kind of fan favorites, same thing with Michonne, and also you need her for later on, which is something I don't really want to get into, because I don't want to get too spoilery, but essentially, as he's about to swing, with Lucille, he, talking to them, and he goes, you're gonna scream, you're gonna cry, and that's all right, blah blah blah, something along those lines. And he's talking to the whole entire cast, and as he's doing this, he turns from right to left and speaks to them. Well, continuity wise, Glenn is on the edge of the lineup. Their lineup goes like that, and he's over here on the very edge. For Negan to be speaking to everybody and telling them you're gonna scream, you're gonna cry, blah 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 blah, there's no reason he would turn left. If he was looking at each of them, he would just sweep right, because everybody's to the right of his perspective of Glenn. So there's no reason for him to look to the left unless he's talking to his own people, which, why would they scream or cry? So that's another reason I don't think it's Glenn, because continuity-wise, there's no reason he would be sweeping his head that way. It has to be somebody more centered, and again, Abraham's more centered. Plus, I feel like with him dying, like he already said his goodbyes to Eugene and shit like that. So I think with him dying, that would have a huge impact on Rosetta and Eugene, and also he and Rick were really close and stuff like that, and he was always the one down to fight and down to clown and just go into the van and blah 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 blah. He was that guy. So I think he would have a pretty big impact, a much larger impact than, say, Aaron or Sasha. So all of that being said, my thoughts are it's probably Abraham. This finale was a cop-out, in my opinion, and was just a cheap way to get people to tune in season 7, which they would have done regardless, even if they had showed in full graphic detail, especially if they had shown in full graphic detail who died and then just lingered on the shot of the body. People would have been like, holy shit, and then tuned in for season 7 to see, like, how Rick comes back from this, how the group, like, reconciles this, and how the reckoning begins. Like, that's the reckoning, how that would play out. People would tune in for that. And I just, I don't know. I mean, the theories on Reddit about the point of view thing being Glenn because it was his point of view coming out of the band, that's a good theory. But again, I do kind of put it past the creators a little bit. It's a little bit too much for this show in particular, and maybe for the direction that they normally take. And also with all the other evidence that I've seen and things like that, it just doesn't make sense that it would be Glenn. It really doesn't. And if they're just going to copy the comic book, I don't really see the point in doing that, especially since they haven't already with other things like Andrea. So, with all of that being said, I think it's Abraham. And let me know what you guys think. I mean, a lot of this other stuff, there's a lot of other theories on like Reddit and things like that. Twitter, I believe, has a few theories. And I think some of them are viable, some of them aren't, but the one that I pointed out with the point of view thing was the one that I think most people are latching onto and saying, oh, it's definitely Glenn, it's definitely Glenn. They had him almost die so many times, they gave him plot armor. When he and Maggie were in the shower, they had This Is Over or something like that, like a song playing in the background and all this other stuff. There were a lot of little things that pointed to it being Glenn, but again, it's too obvious. Like, there's no need to be that subtle when you're being that obvious. Like, every trailer shows Glenn about to die or Glenn in peril because they know what the comic book readers expect. And if they're just going to give the comic book readers what they expect, what's the point of watching the show for the comic book readers? You're going to lose a lot of fans that way. You're going to lose a lot of viewers. It doesn't make sense. Financially, it doesn't make sense writing-wise, and it really doesn't make sense, especially because I'm an avid reader of the comic books. And in a couple of issues after Glenn died, Robert Kirkman, the guy who writes for The Walking Dead, the creator, he answers fan letters at the end of every issue of The Walking Dead. And in maybe 3 or 4 after Glenn died, he got a letter asking about why he killed Glenn and stuff, and he said, because we felt like the character ran its course kind of in the comic books, and Stephen Yeun, I want to say that's how you pronounce his name, he is really, really good on the show essentially, and we need to put the spotlight on him and give him time to shine and blah 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 blah. So if the reason he killed him off in the comics was because he liked him so much in the show, why the hell would they kill him off in the show? There's too much pointing against it for me personally. That's not to say it's not Glenn, that's not to say it's not Eugene, that's not to say it's not Aaron, but if it was Aaron or Sasha, that'd be the biggest cop-out. There's no way, or Rosita for that matter. They have almost no fan interaction. Like, the fans care about them, sure, you know what I mean, but they don't like care about them. Like, they wouldn't riot, you know what I mean? And it wouldn't affect the group as a whole, whereas somebody like Abraham would, somebody like Glenn sure as hell would. So those are definitely the top 2 picks, and the reason I lean towards Abraham is because it just wouldn't be good of them to kill Glenn. It honestly wouldn't be smart, and because everything seems to point towards that. So, with all that being said, I probably repeated a whole bunch of shit, and I probably am going to have to cut this video way down, because it's like 20-something minutes. So I'm going to have to cut this video way down, make it like a 5-minute video, and I'm going to post this and see what, I don't know, what you guys think about it. Really, I just kind of want to get a dialogue going here, because I want to know what other people think, and I want to know if, you know, you guys have maybe some more information, some more insight that I haven't seen or that I haven't thought about. And just kind of talk about it, because I feel like this episode's going to be very divisive in just the Walking Dead community, and maybe even in comic book communities, and just in a lot of different aspects. It's a very divisive episode, and that doesn't mean this episode does not at all mean that I'm done with anime stuff. As a matter of fact, I'm currently editing my next anime review, and I've mostly written the script for my next one, and I've done collaborative stuff. I'm doing collaborative stuff for other things, so I'm not done with anime. This is just kind of an intermittent thing that I wanted to talk about personally. You know, if you don't like this kind of content, that's fine. I might just make another channel for it or something like that, but then again, I should probably go to my gaming channel and put something up there. Anyways, yeah, that's about it. I think that's about it. If you didn't like this video, or if, you know, you're just here for the anime stuff, don't worry about it. It's coming back. This is probably going to be a one-time thing, unless, like, people really, really love it. But, yeah. I think that's it. I think we pretty much covered everything. Yeah, leave your comment below telling me who you think died, possibly, and why you think so. And, I guess we'll find out in a couple months, huh? We'll see. Peace, guys.